Hey, what's up guys, you got Crave here, and this is going to contain spoilers for the War of Thorns Part 2, so if you haven't seen it and you want to experience things for yourselves, then go ahead and watch something else. I'll make a countdown. 3, 2, 1. So that happened, Part 2 of War of Thorns, and I think Blizzard did what they set out to do, which was to sort of create conflict and entice people to hate, well, not just an aspect of the game or a faction in the game, but I think some players also pretty much dislike Blizzard right now. If you check out the forums, you're going to be seeing a lot of opinions, especially around the writing of how the whole thing played out. Before going to Sylvanas and her own short, or her animated short, I wanted to check things from the Horde side and the Alliance perspective. Now, from the Horde side, Saurfang was able to scale the mountains of Felwood and go over directly to Lordanel, which took the town by surprise. Now, of your 3 missions that you had to do there as a Horde character was to slay some of the defenders, which is understandable in a war, take down the captains, which is understandable in a war. But what I liked about Saurfang in this one is that he asked that we spare civilians. Now, on the Alliance side, you basically do the defensive part of things. So you do kill some Horde attackers, you kill some Horde captains, and you basically also do the same thing, which is to rescue some civilians. And basically, it's just a mirror of what happens on the Horde side. Now, both Horde and Alliance scenarios eventually converge into one spot in Darkshore, where we see Sylvanas and Malfurion fighting it out. Now, Sylvanas goes down from a hit from Malfurion, and it looks like she's going to be beaten, but eventually Saurfang shows up and throws his axe at a preoccupied Malfurion. Now, here's where we again see the honor of Saurfang. He regrets throwing the axe at Malfurion and says that he shouldn't have interfered in their fight. Now, I know a lot of Horde loyalists will say that it was the proper thing to do, this is war, and this is blah blah blah, there will be casualties everywhere, and take note, I do have a Horde character, and I started out as Horde in this game. Plus the main character I'm going to main, or at least the first character I'm going to be playing, is a Horde rogue. So I'm not really defending him in any way, I'm just saying I appreciate his honor. Now, Sylvanas goes on to say that you did the right thing. Now, if you can just please just go ahead and take his head and meet me in the World Tree. Then Tyrande shows up to save her beloved. And I appreciate this scene of Tyrande for 2 reasons. First thing is that she sounded really ferocious in this scene. It reminded me of the Night Elves in the World of Warcraft, or at least in the Warcraft RTS games. And the second thing about this scene, which I appreciate, is that it wasn't as cringy as what happened in Legion. Ugh, that scene in Legion. She then has an exchange with Saurfang around honor, where she says that there was nothing honorable about what was happening, mainly because innocents were dying. Now, if you play this from an Alliance perspective, she also goes on to say that, or tells you to go to Teldrassil to make sure that the Horde occupation would be something manageable or tolerable, and sadly, she wasn't just really aware what was going to happen next. And this is where the animated short for Sylvanas starts. It makes us relive a moment in Sylvanas' life where she was very much alive and not undead, and she was very much in defense of Silvermoon. And this was a time when the Death Knight Arthas was taking or just rampaging across her forest and basically just wanted to get to Sunwell. And I admit that it was a painful part in her life because she was losing her city, and she also, in her death throes, at least in the moment where Arthas killed her, she was made to see where she failed in defending her city. She was made to see that there was a mother and a child who lay cold, dead on the forest floor. Now, I understand that war can change people, and I understand that people can change based on the negative or traumatic events in their lives. So, I suppose that's why Sylvanas is Sylvanas, but it doesn't really give you the reason to be cruel, merciless, or quote-unquote evil. Now I'm saying quote-unquote evil mainly because we don't yet know what will happen in BFA. It could be a number of things. She could be just basically one-dimensional and a Garrosh 2.0. She could be following a redemption story, which I hope is not the case, mainly because we just had one recently. She could be under the influence of the old gods, which would be, I guess, pretty obvious. She could be under the influence of Bolvar now that he's getting stronger. That would be something. Not the best story twist, but that would be something. All I'm saying is that we don't yet know what's going to happen, and I'm really hoping that Blizzard will pull a fast one on us and surprise us or shock us with a really great story eventually in BFA. Admittingly, at the moment, it's not very promising, mainly because of the main reason that we thought We knew ahead of time that Teldrassil would burn, and we also thought we had hints that it might be Sylvanas, and here in part 2 in War of Thorns, we got exactly that. You have to admit though that it is convenient in terms of progressing the war theme of the expansion. If you're Alliance and you're really into your faction, this makes you hate the Horde. Now, the problem here is that aside from the very obvious writing is there are concerns in the Horde side of things. Now let's first admit that this whole war thing, or whatever happened in Teldrassil, really just adds some flavor to the PvP aspect of the game. Aside from just doing straight up battlegrounds or arena for honor, for ranking, for gear, at least now you have a running theme in the background, and that really helps to up the flavor of the game. But I think that some of the Horde player base would be pretty much unhappy about this one. First off are the Horde Druids. Of course, they're going to be upset, and I don't understand how they can go with this one, especially since the War Chief of the Horde is going after Malfurion. And the second thing is, I guess, just especially for those Horde players who are so much into their character, I can understand that they'd feel very conflicted about what's happening right now. You've got a very bloodthirsty War Chief. While she has goals in mind for the Horde in general, her mechanics or the way she does things to defend her faction is not really the sanest of things to do. To be clear, none of the factions are actually innocent in this one. I'm sure at one point in time, or any of the player base in either side can actually point out that this faction did this, your faction did that, and you can just keep pointing your fingers. But for this particular instance, again, just because of spite, and I think that's the way it appeared to me, it was out of spite, because someone talked her down, Sylvanas decides to burn down Teldrassil. I really wonder where Blizzard will go from here. For the Alliance, this gives them an excuse to flex their muscle and just basically go at it with Sylvanas, and which is why we're going to be seeing the Battle for Lordaeron. And I played it on the beta, and it was just, I guess, just okay. Oh, and by the way, in the Battle for Lordaeron, you're going to be seeing more of Sylvanas being Sylvanas. But what I'm concerned about, or what has got me thinking, is the Horde player base. I know that not all of them will be okay with this one. Even I'm not okay with this one. Blizzard did a good job here. I feel conflicted about being a part of a faction that did what it did. When I saw the tree burn, I just was thinking, wow, I helped with that. Anyway, like I said, I really hope that Blizzard has a really good story in BFA, that it's not going to be, again, just what happened recently in part 2 in War of Thorns, where what we thought would happen actually happened. Either we're very good at seeing things for what they are, or it's just really just poor story writing. I hope that is not the case, that it's not a case of bad writing. Or maybe introduce a third faction. I know it's pretty far-fetched, given that it introduces something into a system where you already have two sides and it's already difficult to get a handle on them. But yeah, anything could happen. All I'm saying is just I'm wishing that we're surprised and that it turns out that BFA had something amazing for us, an amazing plot, which eventually leads to bigger things in the future. So what did you guys think of part 2, War of Thorns, and the animated short for Sylvanas? Let me know in the comment section below. But as always, thanks for watching.